So now let's talk about, you were mentioning it earlier, but let's dive back into the Asics Superblast. So this shoe is very new for Asics. It'll be a couple weeks old when this episode releases, but can you give us a little rundown on what this shoe is?
Yeah, it's basically like take everything that you know and like or dislike about the Nova Blast and put it on steroids. And
right.
So basically, they, instead of having the Blast Plus foam midsole throughout the entirety of it, they basically raised that stack height very considerably. You have the turbo foam that's in the Metaspeed Edge and Sky models all the way up to 45 and a half or 45. I don't know.
45 and a half. Yeah.
Yeah. In the heel. So we're over that 40 millimeter stack height now.
Yep.
It's an 8 millimeter drop, I believe.
Yes.
Down to about 37 roughly. So
37 and a half. Yeah.
You got a lot of foam underfoot, and it's a dual density midsole. So you do have a little bit of Blast Plus down at the very bottom. That little seafoam green down on the bottom there. That's actually Blast Plus. So you have that real soft Blast Plus material. Turbo to me has always been a little bit firmer, even though it's still a soft and compliant like super foam. Compared to EVA, It's definitely soft, but it's still a little. It holds its structure a little bit more when you load it. And so what I feel with this shoe is you just get a lot of bounce and rebound off of this thing through that toe off, and there's no plate in it. It's a very lightweight foam. When you take no plate, a very lightweight upper, and for having 45 millimeters of stack, like a size 9 is like 8.4 ounces. It's pretty absurd.
Yeah. This is the lightest. This is the lightest of these kind of maximal super trainers. Even though it's got a ton of stack height, it is by far the lightest one. I think it's over an ounce lighter than the Prime X, right?
Yeah,
the Prime is
so.
like 9.6. Yeah,
something like that. Yeah,
3-ish ounces lighter than the
SC Trainer.
SC Trainer.
Yeah, so it's one of those shoes, and they're marketing it as such, as like a daily shoe, a performance shoe, a workout shoe, like long run shoe, like a shoe that you can literally do everything in. And it does run that way. I've pushed the shoe a little bit, and it still pops off like a lot of other performance shoes would. So, and then I've also run easy in it. Most of my mileage in the shoe is probably easy mileage, and it still runs relatively smooth. And I don't feel like I'm 45 off the ground. Like I think they did a pretty good job of like making you feel balanced and centered, and not like you're on these like stilts where you're not quite feeling like yourself. So I think they did a great job with the shoe, honestly. I think there's a good place for it, especially if you use it like that Swiss Army knife to do everything.
And I think you said the Swiss Army knife, I think, is the best description of this shoe, where, by the way, and David alluded to this earlier, this shoe is still stiff. There is no plate in this shoe, right? It's the only one of these super stack super trainers that doesn't have a plate. I'd be terrified to see what it was like with a plate. They did not need this, because it's still, with just the amount of height here, it's still super stiff. And yeah, I totally agree with all the stuff that it's a very, I know we throw the word versatile out, and so maybe the Swiss Army knife's a better term, because I've actually done a ton of easy miles, but I've also done for like a week straight, all my workouts were done in the shoe, no matter what it was, tempo run, threshold, intervals, and it performs well. It's definitely not, it wouldn't be the thing I would reach for a race, but if I was like, I just need something because I don't know what I'm going to be doing when I get out the door, this would be it every single time. And it doesn't feel like you're on stilts. And I think part of that is the fact that it's got a wider outsole. They've done the stable neutral really well. There's sidewalls here. But I also think you're right where the foam, it's a bouncy foam, but it's a firm bouncy. It's not your mushy. It doesn't feel like the SC Trainer. It doesn't feel like Prime X. It feels like you pop in the sole, compresses and bounces back, but it's still on the firmer side, or like just has a firmer feel for this stuff, which kind of makes it not feel as stilty and wobbly, which it's got a great grounded ride. So I've been really, really impressed. Upper fits what do you think about the upper?
I thought it was pretty good. It might have fit a tiny bit long for me, but it was otherwise, it's kind of funny because it's like it falls right in the middle between that Metaspeed Edge / Sky, where it's really thin and like, okay, race ready upper. It's a little bit more plush than that, but it's not quite as plush as the Nova Blast. Like they definitely went right in the middle there. And it's
called
a very
Superblast, so
it's a very thin, lightweight, just engineered mesh that's on the top. It's like basically one piece, and
Yeah.
I think it's streamlined pretty well, and I think it's integrated with the sidewalls pretty well. It's one of those uppers that locks down. It's a little bit snug through like the midfoot and heel, but I don't know. I mean, it feels like a shoe that is a little bit performance and a little bit daily. It doesn't feel like you have to be like locked in, ready to go to run in this shoe. It feels forgiving enough to where you can still do whatever you want.
Right. So last thing on some of these super trainers, now that we're transition. No, so any other thoughts on this? Any other comparisons you would make to the other Max super trainers?
Yeah, so when I take a look at this shoe versus something like, say, the Prime X, if we're keeping it above the 40 millimeter stack.
Yeah, let's keep it there.
So I think the Superblast was designed with the aim of being that Swiss Army knife and being a shoe that can do a little bit of everything. The Prime X was kind of just like, let's have fun and create a shoe that just goes stupid fast and who cares about rules. And so you look at it, the platform's a little bit more narrow. You collapse, like it just, the whole thing it's interesting. Light Strike Pro is very soft, very bouncy. They have 2 layers of the energy rods. It's very stiff. I mean, like, I gotta like, I can barely bend that thing. Very, very poppy off the toe off. They're just different shoes. Slightly narrow heel. You transition much quicker through that heel and midfoot. Like, this is a shoe you're gonna actually want to turn over in. When I run slow in the Prime X, it doesn't really feel good.
It's terrible, actually.
Yeah, but it's a lot of fun to turn over, and it's just like, it's a lot of work for my lower legs, where I don't quite get that in the Superblast. To take a look at the SE Trainer, I think the SE Trainer, I mean, it's in the name. It's almost like it's more of a trainer. It just doesn't really feel like it has that pop to me. It's more of a rhythmic shoe that I want to just go run easy in. Recovery day, I want to make that recovery day just a little bit easier for myself. It's got a play. It's got a sharp geometry, very forgiving feel cell midsole, comfortable knit upper. Like, it's kind of just a plush, almost like a premium trainer to me. So that's probably the most highly distinct I can make between the compare and contrast of all 3 of those in a quick snippet.
I think you hit that on the head, and I would agree with all those thoughts. Where the SE Trainer for me, which I'm holding up right now, it's a trainer. I use it for easy days, recovery days. I would not use it for any kind of faster effort. The Prime X is really biased toward faster efforts. It does not. I know people are using it for daily training. That's fine. For me, and it sounds like David, running easy and it's not the greatest, but when you pick up the pace, it's like, oh, this is what this is meant for. Whereas the Superblast seems to be able to handle both of those things fairly decently. It may not be as, I don't know what you think, it may not be as all out as the Prime X, but I still think it does a good job of being able to pick the pace up. And I have done very long workouts in it, and it's been great. It seems to be able to handle the daily training well. It's a teeny bit firmer, so if I really wanted to unload my legs, maybe I'd pick the SC Trainer, but like for that do-it-all, it seems to be kind of one of the top ones for me personally, although I'm a little biased because it just kind of works with mechanics. Random question for you. What do you think about the costs of these 3?
So Superblast is at $220 retail. Prime X is $275.
Yeah, $270, and then the Strung, which we don't have,
$300. Yeah, we don't have. Yeah, we don't have Strung.
The SC Trainer is $180, which I still remember going, like, wow, like I can't believe it's only $180 for that much shoe. But what do you think of these costs?
I think it comes down to the consumer, to be 100% honest, because for me, and it didn't quite work quite as well for my mechanics. Like, I didn't run in the SE Trainer and be like, wow, this is my shoe of the year. I just never got that feeling. And so for me, I couldn't justify purchasing it for $180 just for my own mechanics. The shoe's a great shoe. I think it uses good materials. For what it is, it's in that premium trainer category, and there's other premium trainers going for $160 to, I mean, you know, like not that shy of that price point.
Yeah.
So probably okay if someone's going to use it and they're going to use it for those intended purposes of logging those daily miles, maybe even racing. If they just like the way it feels in their foot and going for long periods of time, because you don't have to be running sub 3-hour marathons, you know, to be running a certain shoe. Like, you can run in whatever's comfortable for you. Right. I think that's I think that's the idea of a lot of these shoes, is create something that is still very comfortable, still uses the new materials, but it doesn't have to be a Vaporfly. It doesn't have to be a Meta Speed. It doesn't have to be a DV8 Nitro Elite. It doesn't have to be anything like that. With the Superblast, it's a very interesting price point, right? Being at $220, it's like, okay, so $30 more would be a Vaporfly. $30 more would be a Metaspeed, Edge, Sky, whatever. With that said, I don't say that in a way that like, oh, this is overpriced. I don't know if it is. I think it actually depends, again, on the consumer. If you're using it for said Swiss Army knife purpose, it's got the AHAR rubber on it. It's got pretty good durability overall, like any of their other trainers would. Yeah, go for it. He destroys shoes if you're new to the podcast. So,
for those that are watching this on YouTube, I have 80 miles on my pair, and I still can't really see the wear. And it's not just because the material's dark. I have not been able to kill this shoe. And the SC trainer, I ripped through that in 70, 80 miles. Like the Adidas shoes, I will rip through the outsole just because that's what, even the Adios Pro 3, which was much better than the Pro 2, by 100 miles, I destroyed it. But it was better than the 2 because the 2 only lasted.
Yeah, you broke
miles.
that pretty quick.
Yeah, I broke it in 40 miles. But just durability wise, this does have it. And I'm going to see how many miles I can get out of this. I'll do a 100-mile review and beyond, but it's handled that fairly well, not to interrupt you, but
No, I think it's a great point because I think it gives you some of the durability that a daily trainer would give you. And it also gives you the options of a lot of other pieces and things to hit. And so if you're using it for that purpose, if it's your Swiss Army knife, if it's your daily trainer, your long run shoe, and your racing shoe, why not pay $220 for it? You know, like that in itself is more valuable than a shoe that I'm going to only wear a couple times in a very quick build up to a race and said race. And then I put it away in the closet for a while until I start building up for another race. Like, this is a shoe that can keep on giving. So, like, why not be $220? I think that's actually a decent price point when I look at it from that standpoint. The Prime X is an interesting one. Yeah. I think the Prime X one's just a really interesting one. I mean, they use the full-length Continental, at least on the Prime X I have, and the outsole is pretty thick overall. Like, I see this lasting quite a while as long as your mechanics can hold up for it.
Not mine.
So I don't know. It's hard to speak on that one because it's not a shoe that I've logged a bunch of miles in. But for those that aren't sensitive to the stability demands of it, you could say the same thing. If you can get durability, like daily trainer durability, and still have race responsiveness, and you don't care about stack height rules, like, why not? What I will say though, if you take a look, like for the people that are watching this, like that is a thick slab of Continental. Like, it's going to be a while until someone like me runs through it. I don't know about Klein, but like I don't destroy shoes, and I don't know if I'd ever run through that. Like, it would probably be 500-600 miles in, and I've run in Adidas shoes to 500 to 600 miles before in the past, and I still didn't run through them then. And so, like, I don't know. I feel like this could end up being worth that in some way if the person really loves the shoe.
I broke it in 60 miles.
The Prime X Strung?
Yeah. No, not the Strung. It was a Prime X.
Wait, really?
Uh-huh. I didn't share it. Yeah.
How?
Because I'm messed up. But I will say...
You never cease to surprise me, man.
I'm that person. I would say my last...
off, though, huh?
Yeah.
It was that lateral heel. Like it got pulled off. Okay.
Yep.
That makes more sense.
That's fair. Right. My last thought before we kind of move on is going to be, for me, the Superblast, like you said, it's that versatile shoe. And I think for the person who's going, I want one shoe to handle everything, I think it actually justifies the $220 price. It goes, okay, if you're not running in like a sanctioned race trying to make money, right? This is a shoe you can train in, you can run faster in, and you can race in. Right? I know it's illegal, whatever, but most people, the general population, it's not going to be a problem for them. So I think for $220, for the durability and what it can handle, I would invest in that personally, because this is the kind of shoe I keep looking for, going, I want something that I can just strap on, do a workout in, do an easy run in, do a long run in, and even like be confident to race him. So I can see if you have the funds, that might make sense. But if you're going, hey, this is going to be my training shoe, and then I'm going to spend a lot of other times in like racing shoes, maybe not. Maybe something like the Nova Blast might work. If you have the funds, go for it. I would say that. Or the other option of where I can see this working if you have the funds is if you're you're not ready for, or you haven't really spent a lot of time in these super shoes yet, in the like the Metaspeed Sky or Edge. I think this would be a good way to kind of go, you know what? I'm going to spend some money on this. It's not $250, it's $220. Let's take this through a training cycle and see how I respond. And, maybe we should wait on that comment. I'm going to save that, actually. So, speaking of which,